You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
I'm pretty good, thanks, mate. And I don't think, however they play in the next couple of days, people are going to come back with their jobs intact, if I'm perfectly honest. I reckon this is going to be a pretty weird next 6 months for English cricket.
Very good, thanks. It's good to be back. It's been just over a year since I last broke all your records for viewing figures, so it's nice to be back. Hopefully you've got your stats right today and you're not going to insult me by taking all the runs off me.
I think we took about 10 runs off him last time and he's never let us forget it.
Well, you know.
Yeah, that is true.
When it's quite a big proportion of your runs, you've got to fight for them.
What? Oh, Max, you're a nightmare. That's what you want. So we use this terrible program called OBS to do our streaming on, and Max can't quite figure it out. But it's all right. Chris, you and me can talk because everyone can hear us, so that's a good thing. So we've got a couple of sponsors messages because we've got a new sponsor this week for each of the test matches, and that is Serious Cricket. So each of our daily shows for the fourth Ashes Test are going to be sponsored by Serious Cricket, who have provided our cricket club, I Don't Like Cricket Club, with gear since we started, 4 years ago, I think it was, Max. And they offer a full range of cricket equipment and know each item inside and out. Whether you're looking for a new helmet to fit your inflated acquired ego from your purple patch last season, like Jack Hope, who's too poorly to be on the show this morning, or for someone to discreetly provide you with children's-sized pads for your little legs, like Max, they have the lot and stock all the major brands you're looking for. As you're listening to our podcast and looking at Chris Nash's wonderful face, you get 10% off when you use the code TCP10 on their website on all cricket equipment, the link of which we will provide in the show notes and on our Twitter. And then all equipment is available with next day delivery in the UK. So use that Christmas money you got and treat yourself.
Do I get a discount for being on the show? Because obviously, because Gray Nichols don't want to know me anymore. Now I've retired, and I'm just a rubbish clubby. They actually won't give me any kit, so there we go.
Well, you don't even get it. You play for Horsham now, right?
It was a sporadic appearance. I think I had 3 or 4 appearances, and I realised that the body wasn't working as well. I dropped about 4 catches, kept getting caught deep mid wicket, so I just kind of continued my professional career in the club game, really.
Dropping catches, it's a way into the England side, isn't it? I think,
here we go.
I think I'm back now. I think people should be able to hear me. I'll just turn the audio off and turn it on again. Absolute rubbish. This is what happens when you don't pay for actual streaming.
We also need to. Have you got the number of your decorator as well?
Well, it's me. That's the problem. The decorator.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Work in progress.
Max, how long have you lived in that house?
20 years.
We bought it in March this year. Last year, not March this year. Last year, it's 2022. Happy New Year, everyone. We bought it in March last year, but we had to do a bit of we had to get it rewired and get some ceilings replaced, so that took a bit of time. Taken a little while, but we're getting there. We're wallpapering the living room at the moment, so.
I love it when we do an interior design podcast. That's what next week. Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen's going to be on the show. So
I've got flowers. I've got flowers in here. Don't worry.
Well, the thing is, Ross, as you know, half of the day today or yesterday was lost to rain, so we got to fill in half of the show with something else. So why not go with the lack of progress on decorating my new house? That was an attempt at a segue into the day's cricket.
Where, is that what we're here to talk about?
Yeah, that's what we're here to
Oh.
talk about. We're here to talk about the
Oh.
Ashes. Sorry, everyone. And
Okay.
yes, off to Sydney, where the weather forecast for 4 of the 5 days is for thundery showers. So England have brought out their secret weapon in a hope of salvaging a result out of this game by bringing the weather with them, and it managed to delay things a bit as we only got 43 overs in. Pat Cummins winning the toss and deciding to bat even though there was some weather around, which apparently Joe Root would have done too. So makes one think that really it was a good toss to lose from an England point of view. Even if Australia do go and pile on a load of runs, we all know what would happen if England had batted first with some rain around. As it happened, it looks like normal service really, with Australia getting off to a pretty solid start before England's bowlers came roaring back. Stuart Broad bowling round the wicket to David Warner and getting him caught a slip. Who's seen that before? Anyone thought of trying that at all this series? Better late than never, I suppose. Marcus Harris, it took a bit longer to go through the formalities of getting him out this time, but we did eventually do it. And Marnus Labuschagne fell. He failed. He didn't score 50. So we've got an Usman Khawaja who hasn't played cricket played Test cricket for about 2 years, and Steve Smith, who's hopelessly out of form in this series, at the crease, waiting for play to get underway tomorrow. Dare we be optimistic, Ross? Dare we?
Well, of course we can hope this Test match gets rained off. That's probably the best we can hope for. It is amazing how England's man management just baffles everybody. Like I love the fact that you need to drop Stuart Broad, make him so unhappy that then they think that's the only way to get the best out of Stuart Broad, and the Test match the series is already over, and finally he's kind of coming and steaming in on a pitch that potentially suits his bowling. So yeah, it's a little bit silly, really. Chris, when it comes to the Ashes series so far, where have you stood on it? Has it been a case of, do you know what, Australia just better than us? We didn't get a good enough preparation due to COVID and all that kind of stuff, or has it been kind of just one mistake after the other from kind of the management side of this?
Yeah, you got to look at it and say the whole thing's been a bit of a nightmare, isn't it, from the start to finish? But you look at how much cricket England have played during this COVID time. I only played a very small amount in this COVID world, and it was horrible. Honestly, it's not enjoyable. Everyone's playing, obviously you're playing cricket, you're living your dreams and all that, but it's not the fun that you kind of signed up for. You're stuck in hotels, you're stuck in bubbles, you're testing every day, and you're always on a bit of a kind of knife edge of whether it's all going to go wrong, and it's just not fun. So for England to have played the amount of cricket they have, and I think for Australia to have played such little cricket, I think it definitely shows. England look tired, they look a bit confused about what they're doing, and obviously the planning going into it, barely getting a warm-up game. You can't do that. The selections have all been a bit funny. They've been rotating players over the last year, and there's supposed to be 4 or 5 years of planning gone into this Ashes series, and it's almost like they've kind of got to the last minute and panicked. So you definitely say that the way they've gone about it in terms of the planning, the way it's been run from above, the amount of cricket they played, it's just, you can't really expect them to win, to be honest. So I do feel for a lot of the players.
You mentioned around kind of the COVID bubbles, etc. Obviously, this match, Travis Head for Australia was ruled out with COVID. Chris Silverwood, the England coach, who's under quite amount of scrutiny at the moment, has gone, do you know what, lads, I've got COVID as well. He was probably out licking doorknobs or something, trying to get out of it. But there's a bit where this Test match, the preparation for this Test match alone, but bear in mind the Ashes tour, Joe Root was pretty much taking up the mantle as head coach with Graham Thorpe, and kind of doing throwdowns and had the little ball chucker out, etc. I think they had one of the press officers was kind of throwing balls at some of the batsmen as well. Like, that's kind of associate nation cricket. That's Horsham cricket in Sussex. That is what you get when you turn up to Chris Nash. You get a colt from the nets and go, you go and do this, and I'm going to smash the balls back at you.
Well, not even to mention the fact that the net bowlers that England were using in the lead up both tested positive for COVID, and were obviously had it while they were warming up the England batsmen before the games. So I mean, I don't know about you, Ross, but I'm surprised we didn't just get on the plane and call it a day. Or is it because there isn't an IPL around the corner?
Yeah, I think if it was anyone else other than Australia or India, I think this Test match would have been off. And yeah, this is.
The thing is, we call off most tours. So, we called off the Pakistan tour. Look, we can't really hide from the fact that a majority of what's happening is it's money, isn't it? We can look at everything that's happened in the past few years as money, money, money. And unfortunately, it looks like it's coming to roost a little bit. And I actually feel for Silverwood. I feel for Root. There are people out there who are, running companies in this COVID world, and it's not what you signed up for. No one was trained in how to deal with COVID. You got, I'm watching that Class of '92 documentary last night, and the guy's saying, everyone's in separate cars. You can't get to know your players. You can't spend time. And I think it's quite harsh. We're going to judge Silverwood quite harshly, and the media have taken him to the cleaners, saying he's incompetent. A lot of people have come out and said that. Try doing your job in these times. If he'd had a free run at it with everything going right, then he would have probably done a brilliant job. And actually, we think back to before COVID, we won the Test series in South Africa. We won in Cape Town. So I was actually out there with them then, and he was brilliant. And he had a group around him. It was very cohesive. The guys were great. We're blaming people and we're judging people on what is the most unprecedented times. And I think it's harsh. I think they've been pushed into a corner by the people above them.
Those people doesn't include Ashley Giles, who's been told that he needs to write a paper, doesn't he, on what's gone wrong.
Mark your own homework.
Yeah, and he also came out and said, well, I can't really do too much about how much cricket the guys play, both at a domestic level and both at an international level. And it's kind of like, so what's your job then, Ashley? Like, there's just quite a big question there around this guy's got all of the responsibility. He's then gone, Silverwood, all of England men's cricket is your problem. You can deal with all that. And as you say, Chris, like, he hasn't gone to Harvard Business School on a COVID course on how to run an organisation. And there's probably one set up, so maybe we'll get a sponsorship by them. But there is that bit around how can they navigate their way through this other than the blame game? And it always seems that the ECB have to play that game with the media. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are some kind of, I don't know, like the old boys in the MCC with the egg and bacon tie kind of going, right, on the Telegraph, we need to go after Silverwood here because we don't want our old mate Straussy to be blamed or something like that. It just seems a bit too convenient at the moment with all the criticism that comes into it. Yeah,
I just think it's easy to pick on certain people, but like you say, Silverwood's had to manage bubbles and all that, and again, Silverwood is one of the nicest guys you'll meet. Honestly, he's one of the genuinely good guys. When we were in Cape Town, I was out there. He invited me in for a few days. I helped coach with them. One of the nicest guys in the world. Had a great group of guys around them as well. The team were brilliant. I loved it. I had a couple of days and it was brilliant. And he's then been thrust into this world where he's one of the biggest jobs in world cricket, with bubbles and players not being available and having to rotate players around, players having to sit in bubbles and not play any cricket for years on end. Look at how much cricket Jack Leach has played. He's a spinner, and then you ask him to come into a Test match and win a Test match, and you're like, and you compare it to the 13-14 side that lost 5-0 as well. I would argue that you have to judge that side harsher than this side because they had all the preparation, all the cricket. They didn't have to deal with COVID. They were previously the number one side in the world, yet everyone's lamenting this side as being the worst English side ever. And it's like, bore off. You got to look at the context and have a bit of a balanced view and maybe use it as a launch pad to help cricket going forward rather than just beating everyone up.
Yeah, it's probably a fair point. But I think on Jack Leach in particular, I think for him, absolutely, it's a horrible situation for being dragged around and not playing any cricket for ages. But you have to look at the way he's been managed as a player, and brought in to play tests that he probably shouldn't, and brought him to bowl when he shouldn't, not playing tests when he should, and not being, not taking a step back and thinking, well, should we actually be bringing him if we're not going to play him? And I know obviously they're not going to go into a series with all right, we're going to bring Jack Leach, but he's not going to play. But that suggests to me sort of a lack of actual thinking and planning about how you're going to set up your teams, especially when you're talking about all the rotation and that kind of thing to try and keep people fresh, and then not actually doing it properly. It's just a bit frustrating to see from the outside. And some of the comments that come out and things like hearing Silverwood say, I would have picked the same two teams for the first two tests, and you're like, I can 100% have sympathy with it not being the job he necessarily expected to do, but you also don't help yourself when you go out and say things that are clearly just wrong.
No, and that's where I think, in anything, there's got to be the right accountability. So in terms of selection, in terms of things like how they treated Leach and stuff, you're rightly so, the right person has to be accountable. And I think everyone has to be accountable for their job. And I think that sometimes you see it in cricket, people kind of blame it, and we're talking about they're blaming the wrong person. Look, when it comes to the picking of teams, etc., Silverwood wrote they've got to put their hands up and say they might have got it wrong and admit to that. I think everyone needs to know what they're accountable for. And I think I've seen it a lot in cricket that people kind of just shirk away and kind of keep their job for a few more years.
Self-preservation.
There's so much self-preservation goes on in sport and most jobs, to be honest. And I think everyone needs to be, right, that's your job. If it goes wrong, you're in the crap. If that job goes wrong, that's nothing you can do about it. So, yeah, I completely agree. There needs to be the right balance. And the blame, if you're going to have a blame game, it's got to be a good blame game.
Get themselves to playing a game of Cluedo and see whose fault it really is. So let's actually talk about the cricket today. There was 40 odd overs played today. Australia looked pretty comfortable, really, but the selection, as you said, Max, in your match summary, Broad removes Warner. And Warner's looked pretty good since the World Cup. He had a pretty torrid time in the IPL, and then from the World Cup through, he's gone from strength to strength. He's back to being kind of the bull that he is known as, right? But Max, this was no surprise. A headband on for Stuart Broad. Point to prove to everybody else.
Caged tiger, wasn't it? What Graham Thorpe said. A couple of caged tigers in the dressing room. Yeah, that's not a long-term strategy for winning. I should probably warn them of that. Riling people up for a couple of months in the hope that they perform well once. But
yeah, and some of the press are also saying Stuart Broad has to be considering his retirement, and it's just like it's. I think he'll go for a little bit longer. Hey, Chris, do you agree with Broad? That you have to drag him off the pitch?
Surely not before Anderson.
Yeah, I think you've also, you kind of maybe this has happened for 3 or 4 years now, isn't it? They keep leaving him out randomly, and I just think you might just get sick of it and go, I'm sick of having to prove myself. What was he played? How many Test matches he played?
We'll get get it out. But he's taken so many bloody wickets, isn't he?
He's played so many Test matches, yet people still think he needs to be riled up to prove a point. And
well, maybe he should stop performing really well when he gets riled up. Maybe he should be dejected and despondent after being dropped.
This is his 150th Test match. He's taken 526 wickets.
That's mad.
Test match cricket.
So you look at it and you think, right, so for every Test match he plays, what do they drop him for 2? So he's been around for a long time, and it's like that's the only way. But the guy knows how to motivate himself. He's an England absolute superstar and legend of the game. So I just think you've got to treat people like that well. And I remember hearing a coach say once, when you get to older players, you're better off to give them a little bit too long than go too early, because Brody and Jimmy, without them, we don't look anywhere near the team. So you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt and give them extra games. And also not playing Broad in the first few Test matches, it allowed Warner to get into the Test match when he hasn't really scored a lot of runs recently. So, that is one of the areas I'd definitely point out.
And did anyone in your career, 151 tests, this is 151st test actually, by the way. Chris, in your career, did anyone ever have the wood over you? Like, so when Broad was coming in, was there anyone, and maybe not scared to face, but you were just like, for fuck's sake, I've got to go to Durham and I've got to play against Chris Rushworth? Or was there anyone like that?
I reckon probably a better question was there anyone who didn't? Was there anyone who didn't have the wood over you?
Is there anyone who had a forest over you?
There was. I actually got one of my mates. He works in cricket stats, and he said to me, he said, "Who's the bowler who's got you out the most?" And I was trying to figure it out, and it was the guys. Funny enough, I spoke to Luke Fletcher about this the other week, and I always scored a lot of runs against Notts, and then I joined them, and then didn't score any runs. They were my team, but we were talking about it. I said all you had to do was bowl straight. So if you just bowl straight, but people tried to nick off whatever. But I said if you just bowl full and straight, you probably get me out. So Graham Onions used to get me out for fun, and every time he bowled, I just thought he just got close to the stumps and bowled straight. So Onions, especially at Chester Street, was all over me. You definitely have certain players, and you're like, oh, here comes Darren Stevens. Or it was always not Onions wasn't in this league, but there was always the 72 mile an hour whiffers, and I just couldn't stand it. Steve-O, Jesus, I still have nightmares about it, and I don't even play cricket anymore.
Labuschagne certainly does.
Again, averaging about 5 against the short ball is a fast track to the England Test team again, isn't it? It's a wonder. It's a wonder where you've been all these years.
But it's interesting at that point is there's so many small, maybe not marginal gains, but there's so many just small bits about cricket around the mentality side of it, or just actually the tactic going into it. And when Broad wasn't on the team sheet in the first Test match, Warner must have been rejoicing in that changing room.
Oh, without a doubt, he would know that Broady knows how to get him out. And whatever you do with a sports psychologist or your meditation or visualization, your bad memories will always be there. You can't get rid of them. So when you've got a bowler who's got you out, you'd walk out to bat, and you can do all the preparation. You hit the ball $1 million in the nets, and you walk out to bat, and all you're thinking is, Steve-O's going to get you, or anything like that. Genuinely, I've gone out to bat, and all I'm thinking is just don't miss the first ball, because I know it's going to be full and straight, or I'm just going to. It's horrific, and that is what. Having finished playing cricket, I realised that I'm free now.
It's a burden off the shoulders.
It is like normally I'd be going back to work today for pre-season training, thinking about facing some medium pacer on April the 3rd, or a university student in March, thinking this is going to be horrific, and it starts again. So I'm quite relieved.
So you mentioned that Jimmy Anderson is obviously still playing. He removed Marcus Harris, who again we've bowled him into a bit of form. Like if one of our openers hit 38, we'd take that. We'd bite the hand off, wouldn't we?
Well, one of our openers did hit about 38, Ross, and then we dropped him immediately. That's what the highest score any of our openers have got all series, and we dropped him.
Yeah, we want someone who averages 30 less than 38. That's what we want. Poor Zach Crawley is all I can say. What I did like was Zach Crawley coming out, and I know we're kind of diverging here, but Zach Crawley came out and be like, I feel like I'm playing pretty good cricket at the moment. It's just like, you're averaging less than 10.
I know.
Like, if you took your 267 away, and I know that's still an unbelievable score, and you can dine out on that forever, you've done sod all.
Well, in fairness, 3 months of cricket for Zach Crawley is the last Test, and then 3 months of the nets. So maybe he's been absolutely middling everything in the nets. We don't know, do we? We haven't got the inside track on that. But I mean, in Crawley's defence, he has caught excellently since he's come back into the side, and that has been one big bonus over Rory Burns. He's he took a catch.
Is that where we're at now?
Where we're picking openers
with
for
specialist
the
fielders. Yeah, specialist fielders. That's what we're going for.
You could have just picked 7 wicket keepers and just had them in the slips and said, they can catch.
Well, no, we don't pick our best wicket keeper, so that's not going to work. Is it? We'd be picking me and Ross.
You don't want to do that. And then finally, the other thing that really happened today was Labuschagne, who on CricViz, they were saying that he's the luckiest man in Test cricket in terms of batting and being dropped.
Oh, really?
So yeah, apparently there. So out of all the people he's had the most drops kind of in his career per the innings that he's played.
I did read that, and it was like over one time per innings, and that's an extraordinary amount, isn't it? And that's where. So sometimes when you're playing as well, you'll go through periods where every time you nick it, it gets caught. Every time you hit a ball in the air, it gets caught. And then you'll have times when, and you look back and it's easy to forget. You might get a really good run of scores and you forget the decision went your way. The bloke dropped the catch at second slip and it went for 4. And all those little sliding doors moments, that's what makes a career sometimes. And it's easy to forget that, actually. And when it's not going well, Jesus, every catch goes straight in. Every time, every decision gets given out. Oh God, I hate it.
Did you ever have like one which was like a freak dismissal? So I remember blocking one. I remember I think I got 5 ducks in a row or something completely shit, and I've blocked one. I was like, Ross, you've managed to get out of this thing, and it's bounced up, hit my shoulder, and then rolled back and down my leg and hit the stumps. And I was sitting there just like, how have I managed to do that?
There's one where. If it hits you on the kind of back of your thigh pad, and then kind of, because your thigh pad obviously juts out a little bit, it hits the inside and then goes back round your legs. So it kind of, it is going down the leg side, and then your thigh pad converted in. And it was, I won't name the brand of thigh pad, but it was quite a big thigh pad that went all the way around your body and you couldn't really move in it. It protected you well, but wasn't particularly useful. And I remember I went in, I got out and the coach came in, and Mark Robinson, and he just looked at me and went, got to get a new thigh pad. And he just went in, and so I had to get a new thigh pad that day. I had to order one online. I think I ordered like a one on Cricket Direct or something like that.
No,
Serious Cricket is where you would have got
Serious
that
Cricket.
from.
Sorry, Serious Cricket. Do I get 20% if I name it?
We should just say that this podcast is sponsored by Serious Cricket, and because you're a valued listener of our favourite hobby, you get 10% off when you use the code TCP10 on their website and all the
it works. I checked it as well.
Get a new thigh pad.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to the Cricket Therapy and Sponsorship Podcast.
I'm kind of picturing you, Chris. Like literally, you've got, like the shell suit kind of thing. The women's garters they used to have out, and they had the wiring in, and you're walking in just like this. Ready, lads? Here comes Darren Stevens. Not getting me out.
Honestly, mate, I'll never forget. Like I walked in and the coach came in. I was like really, really hacked off. I was like, oh, for Christ's sake, that was really unlucky. And he just came in. He went, change your thigh pad. And I was like, okay, right. That was that.
That's the Trevor Bayliss touch or the Peter Bors touch kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So not a load of cricket, but Max, we're kind of in a good position, I think, Max. Like for the rest of where the rest of the tour has been, like actually, it's a pretty positive day for England.
It's probably second or third best day of the series, isn't it? I mean, the best day would probably be that Root and Milan. Root and Milan partnership that took us to minus 220 for 2. Just to put some context onto that. And then I suppose, it was the day where in the day night where we took it to the fifth test, I suppose, or I suppose you could, the day we lost it, but Butler put in that, extraordinary performance we didn't nearly see it home, but we gave it a good old go. It's up there, and that's I suppose encouraging, but also on the flip side, devastating in that it's an even day, and we're looking at it as like one of the victories of the series so far. But good, sort of putting aside all the, it was a troubled build up with all the COVID cases. A bit of uncertainty. So I suppose that would have added to the peril of the build up for the England side. So Silverwood being out and all those sort of rumblings in the media of sack everyone. A good bit of mental fortitude, I suppose, from England to come out and be able to put in a performance. But it's the bowlers again, isn't it? It's
who are the problem?
We know the bowlers can do it. They've been pretty good actually this series. Like Australia have put in a couple of big scores, but those have been helped by 5 or 6 drops, haven't they? Like you think we can't be asking the bowlers to do a whole lot more than they've done so far this series. So I hats off to them and in particular people like Anderson and Broad who've shown actually that they can bowl in Australia. They're not just homers. But
don't you think though that like we do live in this fantasy world in English cricket where I read something the other day. It was like we've won something like 4 out of 30 tests in Australia in like the last 20 years. So, it's not as if this is a massive difference to what we've grown up watching. Like 2010, we won. I remember, you remember that well. We had a brilliant team at the height of their powers, but 13, 14, we got dicked on. I remember being 10 years old in 93, 94, get absolutely dicked on. So we always get dicked on out in Australia. It's just the way it goes. So for us to suddenly, have this moment where English cricket has fallen to pieces, we always get absolutely crucified in Australia. I think
we do, but it doesn't mean it's right though, does it? That's the thing. I think this is it's the way of looking at it that I think's changed, isn't it? We had a bit of success. We won a couple of times in recent memory, and people are expecting England to be good, having won the World Cup, semi-final of the T20s, and sort of one of probably the best 2020 team in the world if you discount the fact that we didn't win the World Cup. And people are sort of expecting us to be able to hold our own. I think probably the India winning in Australia is added to that as well. We're taking over a team that was decimated by injuries and still managing to win in Australia, which isn't something that you'd have expected them to do. So I think it's just a change really in the psyche. Perhaps some people have suddenly been like, why are we getting hammered in Australia? And you're totally right to say that it's not like we shouldn't probably say we lost 5-0 or whatever. It's a calamity, rip everything up. But maybe more of a, hang on a minute, why have we been losing to Australia 5-0 for the last 30 years? What do we need to change to make us more competitive everywhere?
Well, you've kind of led us in by saying you're expecting us to win the win the Ashes, having been, 50 over champions and T20 number one in the world, which that probably leads us quite nicely into where I'm sure you want to go.
My bit, I was going to compare the Ashes to childbirth. Is what I was going to do, and
with your vast experience of both.
Vast experience. Be very careful here, Ross. You're gonna have a lot of. I'm sure you've got a lot of female listeners now going, right, Ross, where are we going to go with this?
So all I'm saying is that the childbirth, as well documented, isn't the most pleasurable thing to go through. Yet there is a hormone that gets released that makes you almost forget about the pain. And actually, that's what we end up doing every Ashes kind of series down under.
Quite as much knowledge from you. So, fair play. I assume that's true.
I'm actually a part-time midwife. Didn't know if you knew that.
Jesus Christ! Interesting angle, but yeah, we'll see where we go with that.
So, I mean, we've got about kind of five minutes left on here, and it'd be great, Chris, to kind of pick your brain and think a little bit. So, obviously, you've got your coaching badges on there in cricket now. You level 2. You got UEFA coaching licenses. Level 3.
Level 3, mate.
Level 3. So, at the moment, is there a plan for you, Chris, to go back into the game? What are you doing at the moment in kind of in the county game?
No, I'm nothing to do with cricket now. I'm working in business. Very, very removed from cricket. Just completely stepped away. So been doing that for just over a year. Haven't really touched cricket. I don't really watch a huge amount. I've just kind of taken some time away from it. Did it for since I was the age of 10. So I felt the need to kind of leave the game a little bit. I didn't. Yeah. It's a funny thing when you retire from playing, you give so much to the game, and actually you realise the game owes you nothing. You don't guarantee yourself a job just because you played for 20 odd years. I wanted to get out of it and. Kept some friends in it, which is always nice. But I've very much kind of moved away and moved into a different world, which has been good fun.
I don't know if you saw the Twitter plea yesterday or the day before, but if you do ever feel like getting back into cricket, then...
the Twitter plea, what was that?
On ours, Max is talking about. Also, we need some players for next year, so I don't like cricket club, but you'd be very welcome.
Oh, God, no, I'd probably fit in well, because I probably agree with the name, actually.
So is there any plans to go back, do you think? Or is there a fire being lit underneath Chris Nash again after a year out?
No, not at all. Well, I just look at it and, I did it for a long time and I've really enjoyed watching from afar, actually. It's quite nice to not wake up in cold sweats thinking you haven't got your pads on, you're walking out to bat naked. You're getting out again, you're stuck in a service station, all those things which kind of did me in over the years. I've enjoyed the break. It's been good for my golf. Every time I play golf with Righty quite a lot, and every time he goes back into the nets, he gets his slice back. So I realised that cricket is really bad for my golf. The golf swing's going well, just enjoying myself. So I can have summer holidays.
This is definitely the most important thing.
As many as I want.
So we are the cricket podcast. We're not just the England cricket podcast. And there's 2 other massive test matches going on at the moment. And the bit about retirement there, Chris, a lot of talk from our Indian fans is around the future of Pujara and Rahane. Pujara's just gone past 50 on a pretty tricky deck. And I think also that Rahane is close to 50 as well. If you want to use England's weighted averages, these are centuries, these 50s. but there's a bit here where I just wanted to really understand from a kind of within the professional game, where does that pressure come from? Is there pressure in the dressing room when you're in that? Because in amateur cricket, there's that bit where you get out and you put so much pressure on yourself, but actually everyone's just almost like either laughing at you or doesn't really care because you go for a beer after. Within the professional game, and you've got someone like Pujara and Rahane who are coming to the end of their test careers, and you mentioned earlier that you'd rather give older people a little bit too long rather than cut their career short. Where does that pressure actually come from? Is that just the media, or does that come from inside?
A lot of it's from within, because you've done so much, you've got so many runs behind you. People expect more of you as you get older. If you stay around in the game for a long time, it's because you're very good. If you're crap, you don't last long. So if you've been around for like Pujara, Rahane for a long time, your expectations and everyone's expectations of you are much higher. You've also Jimmy Anderson spoke about it, I think last year or the year before. He said it's a bit like as you get older, you get more scared because you've had more bad experiences. So you're more aware of the bad side of it as well. You're more aware of what happens if you have a low run of scores. And there's also that bit about you don't want to kind of whimper out the game and play too long. You want to kind of people to remember you as the best player you could be. I had it a little bit. I could have gone and played another couple of years. But I thought actually I was quite happy with the way I finished. I didn't try and drag it out for 2 more years. And people would remember me as an even more frail and crappy old opening batter. So I think you always want to finish at the right time, and that's quite stressful as well.
No one's going to get that the better send off than Alistair Cook got when he got that century at the Oval, and that was the way to bow out, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think everyone thinks you're going to write this brilliant script where you walk off like that and you get the standing ovation and you get the guard of honour. When I hobbled off in the semi-final of the T20 and on October the 4th, 2020, it was about 2 degrees. I tore my hamstring, bust my knee, and had a torn side and a bad back. And I hobbled off in the 8th over, and that was the end of me. And I never thought that when I was 21 years old that I'd get that kind of that really. And there was no one there as well. It was obviously COVID time, so you never know what it's going to be like when you walk off that last time. But it happens, and you move on.
Are we going to get a Chris Nash testimonial?
No one cares about me anymore. You realise I walk down the street now. No one gives a damn who I am. I'm just an insurance salesman who's having coffee.
So the other big test match going on, India and South Africa is currently ongoing, and it's a bit of a dogfight at the moment. But I think India have edged ahead now, where they've got a lead of 100.
It's nice. It's nice that there's some competitive cricket to watch.
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, the most competitive game, though, has been probably one of the biggest upsets in Test cricket. Maybe not. Is it Test cricket history? Can I go that far? But Bangladesh, the team who couldn't hit the ball off the square in the competition recently, they were kind of doctoring their pitches to make sure it was spin friendly at home, and we were kind of doubting whether they could travel. They've just turned over the world champions. So New Zealand have beaten New Zealand in their home turf. That's a mega win.
Surely you have to completely change the structure of New Zealand domestic cricket. Everyone in the New Zealand setup has to be sacked. Basically, obviously, New Zealand cricket is broken because they lost a Test match. It's these stupid reactions to things when actually New Zealand are a brilliant team. Teams don't win every game, and teams go in ups and downs, and you got to give credit to the opposition as well. Bloody brilliant from Bangladesh, to all the staff and all the players. It's an unbelievable achievement.
The thing is, I assume in New Zealand they don't have the equivalent of the Egg and Bacon Brigade, who are complaining about T20 ruining the red ball game for them, and driving this move to rip everything up and bin everything and bin the 100. But it's Ebadot Hussain. What a performance! Before this game, he averaged 80 with the ball, and
it's not great.
It's the first. I think it was the first fifer for a Bangladeshi bowler or seamer, at least in it was 8 years or something. It's insane, absolutely insane turnaround from them, and an incredible performance.
Him and Taskin. I was watching it last night. They were getting reverse swing. Watching bowlers who get reverse swing there is just quite a nice feeling about it. You're watching it.
It's a treat, isn't it? This
is proper Test cricket, and I don't care if they do doctor the ball. There's that bit. I prefer cricket like this. I prefer.
Are you suggesting that every team should be given the same amount of the same grade sandpaper before every game, and it's up to them how they use it?
Like on Ready Steady Cook, where you turn up with different ingredients. I think you take that kind of thing. You'd be like, right, this week you've got a packet of gummy bears. You've got a little bit of sandpaper. We don't care what you do with it. See what you can do, and let's see what cricket happens.
It's a great idea, but there's only one thing that would make it better. Ainsley Harriot's the umpire.
he's match referee at all times.
He's there in the middle. He's wicket keeper or something like that, and he's there just orchestrating the whole thing. And then at the end of the 5 days, all the crowd get to put up what sign they need to win. Either was it red
pepper, green chili or something like that? I don't know.
No, green tomatoes,
green pepper and red tomatoes. I think
that was it. Yeah. And Ainsley Harriot's there. I think that would be. Look, we've got the 100. We might as well do Ready Steady Cricket.
Ready Steady Cricket.
The name's there already. There's a German of an idea.
And I can't imagine Ainsley Harriot's going to turn that down, if I'm perfectly honest.
Mate, 100% would be brilliant.
And I think there might be a job at the head of the ECB Open at some point soon. So get Get your hat in the ring and make your
Oh
pitch.
God, you talking to me or Ross?
Either of you. We don't. We're fully championing Ross for the role. He's got the most credentials.
I reckon I'd suit cricket administration. I reckon I could go with it, but do you know what? I'll take a Rolex here and there. Do you want to play in Qatar? We'll play cricket in Qatar. Like, well, let's go. I've got no issues with all that kind of stuff. But no, I think that's a great place to end the podcast on Ready Steady Cricket. Chris, you've been great as always. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Maybe not with Chris because Chris has probably got better things to do in his life.
I have.
But it's been an absolute pleasure. And if you've been watching, thank you very much. And as we said, we're sponsored by Serious Cricket. Use code TCP10 for 10% off all cricket equipment on their website. And Max will put the thing in the show notes after this is finished.
And Rahani's got a 50 as well.
Wahey! There we go.
If you need any decorators, Max
2 more
needs
years. Love it. Thanks very much, everyone.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.